Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 20 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss best practices with IT modernization programs and strategies in the federal government. With me on today's show are Sunny Bagawalia, Assistant Commissioner and Chief Information Officer, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Department of Homeland Security. Arvind Bajra, Senior Director, Cyber Compliance Solutions, Verizon. Ben Davis, Chief Information Officer, Office of Intelligence and Analysis, Department of Treasury. Will Cardero, Director of Architecture, Data and Standards, and that's out of the CIO's office in the Department of Army. Adam Clater, Chief Architect, Red Hat CTO Organization, and Anish Patel, Head of Federal at Cloudflare. Sunny, we're going to start with you. You've been in that chair, I think, a little over 5 years. You've built an absolutely world-class team. A lot of stuff going on over there, a lot of moving parts. Give us a top line, sort of the state of the state as you sort of muscle that aircraft carrier down the road.
Yes, good morning, Luke. Yes, I think obviously from your background and mine, we're doing a lot here. And just when you thought that the op tempo can get any busier, it has been getting a lot busier. And you're right, it's an aircraft carrier, so you can't turn it on a dime. But we've been doing a lot of stuff in modernization, trying to make sure we can protect the American people, safeguard our borders, and enhance the nation's economic prosperity. Lots going on in terms of how we've improved getting things, the mission done faster, better, more affordably, more securely. And that is basically by making sure that first we have trusted partnerships, that IT organization really works with all our trusted partners. Is there 20 of them just within CBP alone? And then all the other DHS components, other government agencies, industry partners, and international partners, being in a lot of countries, and all of that together, working together with a very specific strategy, and then a strategy into action with measurement framework. So that's what we're doing. A lot of modernization in terms of technology, advancing the CPP mission with our CTO, with all our deputy CIOs in infrastructure and applications, our CISO, all working together so that we can use standards, technology, and infrastructure. And really more about a data-driven organization. Our CDO has just been doing a great job there as well. We're also poised for new technologies, quantum computing, post-quantum cryptography. Obviously, the artificial intelligence term is bandied about quite a bit. As an engineer and 40 years now in this business, we've been doing AI, predictive analytics, and all that kind of stuff for a long time. What's new is generative AI, and we're using it very, very carefully to improve services, optimize processes, and really kind of look at very specific use cases with integrity and security. And I think we are quite aware of what post-quantum cryptography, the challenges, and some of the specific quantum aspects that we should take a look at. Quantum sensing and computing come to mind. And lastly, I'll say that we've been really focusing on a brand new area, which is the remit of CIOs is just the IT segment, which is quite large here at CBP, but really operational technology and information technology coming together with data-driven insight so that we can look at a couple of 100,000 assets from drones, sensors, smart interfaces, IoT, biometric into our IT environment. And as you know, from your role in the past, and just, that's a big challenge. But we have made some tremendous inroads by having 3 or 4 use cases that have really established street creds with our law enforcement partners, and they're very excited. So you'll see some really groundbreaking work that we're going to be doing over there. So a lot of
Great
interesting things that
catch.
are going to digital and physical. Thank you.
Yes, great catch on that. Just massive OT footprint that you have out there that needs to stitch into that IT ecosystem. And hats off to you and the team and everything that you all have done over there to keep this country safe. Ben, let's talk about the mighty organization inside of Treasury called Intelligence and Analysis. Give us a top line, what's going on over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me. It's a good opportunity to really shed the light on the good work that OIA is doing. When you think of the intelligence community, you may not even think of the Department of Treasury, but the work we're doing in OIA is critically important to national security. From the work that we do around intel analysis around illicit finance to intel support to the most senior leaders of the department in the building next door in the White House, to informing and trying to, help our sister organizations with enforcement and sanction enforcement. The work we're doing is absolutely critical. And me as the CIO, think of me as the CIO for the top secret fabric and the intel capabilities. So we're really focused on enabling those critical intelligence capabilities. Our focus area has been really on, beefing up our cybersecurity posture. About a year ago when I joined the organization, it was on the heels of our, DIA's JWIC cybersecurity inspection. And, the team over at DIA did great work in helping us identify some critical areas that we need to focus our attention on. And that's exactly what we've been doing. We've really beefed up the insights, our monitoring, our sensing, our ability to detect and respond, to make sure that we can really defend Treasury's most sensitive information, the nation's most sensitive information, and drive that national security mission forward. Another area where we're making tremendous progress on is our cloud migration. We're probably, it's not new to most of the government, but for us, we're small, so we had to make sure that we were prepared to make that that quantum leap, and we did that this year. We put our first workload into the IC's cloud environment, and we're off and running from there, and we're really excited about the opportunities that that's going to bring. And last but not least, we're really building a world-class team. We've really focused on bringing in some real heavy hitters from our sister organizations, making sure that we are prepared from a staffing perspective to support the growth and mission that we know is coming our way. So those are some of the highlights we're working on over in OIA. Over.
Really do appreciate that. When you think of classified environments, you're right. You don't often think of Treasury, but when you think that through for a moment, you say, oh yes, there's a lot of super sensitive information over there, and we're glad that you all are protecting that. Well, how about the Department of Army, an absolutely massive organization, a huge amount of responsibility there. Give us a top line as to, how does the architecture, data, and standards group sort of fit into that whole ecosystem of modernizing?
Sure. First, happy anniversary, right? And then second, I think what came out was with the new administration, Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Driscoll came out strong with direction, which is how do we identify manually intensive process and leverage technology. And what I mean about that is, Mr. Garcia, the Army CIO, and Dr. Markowitz, the CDAO, which is the Chief Data Analytic Officer, kind of put it all in these bins, right? Where can we find lift, which is automation. So we went out to the echelons, the commands, and asked them, what are these manually intensive processes that you have, and where can we leverage automation? So we went out, we got information, and right now we're sort of kind of aligning those automations to defense business systems for the most part. The second thing we needed to do is sort of look internal to ourselves and see how we define defense business systems. Because as you look at it, I think there's so many things that are happening that are impacting warfighters on these processes and these sort of things that you have to do to kind of feed that information up to the senior leaders. So what we did was we started categorizing defense business systems according to Title 10 and kind of classifying them as covered defense business systems, non-covered defense business systems. And then there's this new category of defense business apps. And that sort of kind of gets into the accountability of things to make sure that we're tracking things that are accountable to defense business systems. And then we have this business IT, which are sort of decision aids tools. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is sort of kind of relook at these manual processes and leverage technology through these systems that we have that have to be informational, or I would call it authoritative source data that we need to make decisions from. So if you look at it, I think the order came out and says, let's look at manual intensive processes. We took it at, for my foxhole, I said, let's look at defense business. I think the CIO kind of delegated down and said, look, we're going to do defense business systems. And again, we sort of kind of bend them into, let's find automations, let's redefine defense business systems, and then kind of talk to the community, the functional leads, and say, within your scope, what can you re-engineer to kind of deliver the product? So what we're trying to do is change the processes, but still deliver the same output.
Interesting concept of viewpoint and sort of the business of the Army, which is absolutely massive, being that it's such a global ecosystem there. So hats off to you all. Arvin, how about at Verizon? You all have a unique perspective there because you're looking striping across the entire federal community along with the public sector community. Give us sort of a top line as to what you see in regards of the ecosystem and the capability of modernizing those environments.
Yeah, thanks, Luke, and congratulations on 8 great years here. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this afternoon with everyone. I mean, I think you'll hear it on this panel. These are my customers, these are my constituents, these are my stakeholders, right? When I hear Sunny, when I hear Ben, and I hear Will talk on this panel, it's what drives us to modernize our technology, right? We've had a massive shift in just Verizon in general, moving things to the cloud, more digital service enablement, and really automating a lot of our processes so that when we do change, when we do multiple products, it's frictionless. It allows you to get to the data. So when we talk to our agencies, the biggest pain point is a multi-vendor ecosystem that they can't really figure out where the threats are. Is it in the IT system? Is it in the OT system? So we've took a platform approach. We've been on a 3-year journey. And, like when you think about cybersecurity postures, when you think about these environments of critical and non-critical workloads, it is imperative that we get a FedRAMP accreditation. So as a supplier, as a contractor here, that is one thing that we really invested heavily in. So that's one big, massive thing that's in the marketplace today. We have a Verizon GovCloud offering, and that is going to set us to start bringing in products and services in those accredited environments. So if you think about things that are 20 years old, right, our business practices in civilian and DoD have changed drastically. Things like MTIPs, I think these are old legacy environments that we're transforming how we take workloads to the cloud. How do we look at zero trust principles? How do we bring in threat intelligence? How do we cross connect systems and still take that platform approach? Our first offering is SD-WAN, as we look at the efficiencies and agencies kind of contracting a little bit in terms of resources. They need a more agile network. They need things that are push button easy. So we're bringing those to solutions to light so that we can solve some of the problems with the agencies in partnership. Another area that's really important to us, and it's the cultural change in how we support, right? We're bringing more of the enterprise muster, the kind of things that we do really fast for a global enterprise business into public sector for the first time. That is a massive cultural shift. Obviously, that for us in Verizon, but also for our customers in the agency. So we're trying to match that because at the end of the day, we are very agency mission focused, and customer experience to us is key. In order for us to change how we serve, we need to change culturally internally. And that's a big thing that I'm undertaking with my team as well.
Fantastic, and we really do appreciate that. Adam, how about at Red Hat? You all started in the we'll call it the container business, certainly the open source game, and have really worked your way up the value chain. Give us a top line as to what's cooking over there and what you're seeing from your perspective.
Yeah, so, I like to think that at Red Hat, we've been in the modernization business since we began. We've always been in the business of migrating workloads off of something else. If you think about that legacy Unix hardware that we
Good,
had in the data
good
center
analogy. Yeah.
so many years ago. So we've worked with our customers from the beginning. And how do I move a workload from A to B? And then obviously they've needed to go from B to cloud. And how do I move those workloads into the cloud while modernizing them as part of that step? So we've seen a lot of those efforts and we've worked hand in hand with our partners. I think what's been really interesting about the conversation thus far is we've heard a little bit about AI, we've heard a little bit about edge, we've heard about quantum, we've heard about automation. And those are all things that Red Hat's incredibly interested in. One of the things that I think about a lot when I think about AI is that as technologists, we tend to be very myopically focused on sort of our worldview and our domain that we're really interested in. And so your developer teams are thinking about how to use AI to make development better. Your operations teams, how do I use AI to make operations better? And obviously your security teams. But there's a whole mission out there as well that really needs to enable AI. And I think that Sonny really hit the nail on the head when he started talking about all the different sensors and drones and video and photo and all the places where those things are going to intersect. AI is much more than just text as we see with LLMs today. So I think pushing all of that to the edge as part of our modernization effort is a big focus at Red Hat as well, enabling edge processing of LLMs and bringing that compute to where it needs to be. So there's obviously a lot of excitement. Looking forward to getting into the conversation, and congratulations once again on the longevity of this awesome program. And thanks for having me on it.
And thank you for all that you all are doing and have been doing and will be doing. And Nish, you know, when you would say Cloudflare 5 years ago, it was let me look up what that means and who that is. And when you say Cloudflare now, it's like, yeah, you all have really entered into the federal market space and are doing an outstanding job. Give us a top line as to where you are across the federal sector, and then maybe what you're doing across the private sector.
Yeah, so Luke, to your point, a couple years ago, folks probably weren't as familiar with Cloudflare. Now, with everybody using some sort of AI app, the most common thing I get is like, oh yeah, I've seen having to click on the little Cloudflare button to prove that I'm human. You know, that's kind of common little thing. So it has become kind of commonplace. For those that aren't familiar with Cloudflare, I think kind of the very high level net of it is we just make it safer for you to connect to the internet. And so, of course, everything today relies on the internet in some way, shape, or form. If I think about the themes and the conversations that we're having with federal leaders, but probably break it up in a couple of different sections. Um, at the secretary or administrative level, I think really the ultimate benefit of the modernization isn't really better technology. It's really just they want to have a more effective and trusted government, right? And so our business conversations, they really revolve around like helping agencies gain and maintain the trust of the people. Because if you're an administrator, the administration's ability to share their message directly, if it's not reliable, then somebody on the internet or some social media community that might be anti-government is controlling the message. And so for a CIO, I think that and some of the things that we've heard from this audience here, I think it really means that we help them make and measure progress against things like reliable service delivery, ensuring that everyone has access to the content that agencies are directly putting out there, or we ensure some level of cyber maturity. How do you protect that data? And of course, just, spending money wisely, right? How do you build systems that are built on platforms that effectively allow you to simplify some of the integration complexities that agencies deal with? So all that combined for Cloudflare really translates to modernizing public interactions. We're trying to help agencies either protect, connect, or accelerate the services they want their users to interact with.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out, somebody brought up earlier the FedRAMP certification, almost table stakes these days. And you all, as a fairly new entry into the market, jumped right on top of that. And I thought that was really important. So hats off to you all for unlocking those capabilities across these various departments and agencies. All right, we're going to take a small break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about IT modernizations, and who better to start us off with a use case? Sunny, you all have a global footprint out there, incredible amount of moving parts. You talked about the OT piece of this as well. Give us a use case that you'd like to highlight for the audience of some of the things that you all have been working on there.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. So I think we started this journey a long time ago when the federal CIO came up with this concept called cloud. So I'm going to focus on cloud, and it seems like very table stakes, but I'll tell you why it's so important, because it allows us to do our mission anywhere, anytime, and at that speed and scale. So you're talking about sort of what 10 to 20 billion data transactions a day, 50 billion data exchanges, about 50 petabytes of data storage. We're talking a lot of stuff that's moving across 100,000 assets, 1,744 locations in about 90 countries. So when you're looking at that, this is quite a massive scale. So one of the things that we focused on, and back in the day when I was the department CIO at Interior, worked with Vivek Kundra, came up with this cloud concept. And 15 years hence, it's good to see that across administrations, for the good of our country, and a good concept, that thing has really taken off in this, and the adoption has gotten better. But what does that really mean? But what that means is we can get our mission done faster, better, more affordably, more securely. I did not say cheaper, right? Because the total cost of ownership on cloud is still something that, but you get amazing amount of mission done very, very quickly. And we've been very successful in that. So we have about 276 apps. About 10% of those are about high value assets that we have reported to the White House. And so those are running the mission of the country. I'm talking the national security mission, the border security mission, the economic security mission, and we're talking trillions of dollars floating through that system every year, and we're the second largest collection agencies, all that coming to the cloud. So we're 85% of the application tier in the cloud, but we also have a tier 4 data center, and only half of that is on the database tier is in the cloud. So migrating those high value assets, these are not small deals, because this is not this is very sort of a specific type of system that has been built. And so we are looking at a lot of automation and centralized service delivery, a lot of security in there, and then migrate that. And the good news is we got funding now for making that happen. So, very patient on that. The trusted partners are seeing the tremendous delivery on that. Both sides of the administration, and currently this administration, clearly a lot of focus on national security, and they're seeing that this thing really stays up. And these things are also up, as one of my colleagues was talking about, on the classified enclaves. So now this thing has really taken off. So, hats off to our originator, Vivek, and then now across all the different, from Suzette to everybody, and the current CIO, Greg Barbakia, as to what we're doing. So reducing the data center infrastructure 2 years after sort of maybe October of this year, we'll be fully in the cloud, one of the first agencies at that size, scale, and complexity to be completely in the cloud. And then expanding, we're doing some specific migration of the cloud migration journey, with sort of everyone really focused on dashboards, governance, clear denominator, and real focus to kind of keep that going. And we have a contract also awarded, and then working all collectively to reach that is really, really key. We're seeing a lot of efficiency and security, and things from trade to border to national security. Everything that's been in the cloud has been working tremendously. So I think, to me, that is the real top line on this one example. Obviously, I've got 20 more, but I'll just stay on this one. And I'll just say, at the end of the day, us CIOs, we want to do strategic transformation, but you got to make sure that tactical ops excellence works, so that you don't spend your time fighting fires. And then you can also bring innovation. So we bring a lot of innovation as well. And the cloud juxtaposition with edge computing is offering us a lot of interesting examples in the future. So I'll just say that is our number one modernization success example. And with one of our directors, Mark James and Dr. Mays, I'm really confident. And then Dak J with the application side, I see nothing but success going forward. Thank you.
And I appreciate the shout out to those warriors that are helping get it done, and for all of you for unlocking that capability. It's incredible. I always say that this agency is right smack in the middle of the economy of the United States, 24 hours a day, 365. So hats off to all of you for everything that you're doing over there. It's quite amazing to watch. Arvind, how about at Verizon, a specific use case that you'd like to highlight in regards to, maybe modernizing one of these environments that we're talking about here, one of these agencies?
Yeah, so everybody knows us to be a network company, a critical infrastructure provider, right? Like we build because it's important to our customers. It's important to my peers on this call here. And a big part of what we've done, and SD-WAN it's a mature product in the landscape. Everybody knows SD-WAN. I think the key thing for us was to take a step back and look at the totality of what a network needs now. You need security. You need observability. You need hyper configurability. You need that agility in a platform. You need to be able to have all those tools at your disposal. So when we build a network for an agency, like we've often built it for agency requirement for agency A, agency B, agency C, and then we go after doing agency ATOs with each one of them, right? The authority to operate. That creates a lot of burden on agencies. That creates a lot of burden for us, and that continues to, propel us forward, right? Because that's still an active way of doing business. However, what we've done is we kind of sat back and said, what are the investments that we need to make to be successful in a 10-year lens? And that's why we went and invested in the Verizon GovCloud platform, right? At a FedRAMP high. We have a large constituency, DoD, civilian, even state and local, that is becoming more pervasive, and even some DIB and some of those like enterprise customers that are looking for that same capability. Because in order for anybody to connect hybrid workloads, on-prem to cloud, multi-cloud, you need a network that's secure as well. So a big part of what we're doing is making sure that how we connect our agencies together to their cloud and their data is going to be super important for us. So that's one thing that we've done. It's been a 3-year journey for us. We're actually in the middle of our ATO right now for that. So I'm super proud of the team on the work that we're doing there. And it really hits the heart of like, you want to have like 2 or 3, 4 other products in it. And now you have the full suite of an agency modernization at your fingertips, right? So that's one of the things that we're really proud of in Verizon. I think the one other thing too is like when you think about incident response and you think about some of the things that are happening, some of my peers here and some of the, like Sunny mentioned it as well, there's a lot that could get lost, right? There's a lot of information that it takes you time to find out where it is, right? Because you have hundreds of thousands of assets. How do you shrink something that would take you 6 weeks down to a few hours? That is rapid automation. That is like using AI, using agentic. So the foundational pieces that I'm proud about over the last 2 to 3 years are only the tip of the iceberg, because the investment path forward to that 10-year vision is to layer in AI, to layer in the automation and modernize even faster than what our agencies need. That's really what I'm excited about.
Really do appreciate that, Will. We talked about the business of the Army. You're in your foxhole there. Give us an example of a program or a capability or what have you that you'd like to highlight in regards to unlocking some of this capability over there at the Army, or tightening some things up.
Right. So keeping with the theme of finding manually intensive process, we
Yes.
sort of kind of integrate sort of the Chief of Staff, General George's sort of priorities is the soldier experience, right? How can we make it easier for the soldier experience, right? So just a really quick win. Mr. Garcia asked questions, and if he can't get these answers, he's going to dig in and figure out, well, is this a necessary process, right? So one of those things that we had Army training and certification tracking system, which was this I would call it a repository where we would have to upload all our cyber awareness training, and sort of this is the way that we were to gain network access. And then after that, we would have to kind of fill out the SAR form, that DD what is it, 2875, which is the system access, or I should say the system authorization access request. We would have everyone kind of fill out this form. You have to go to your supervisor. They would have to digitally sign it. You have to email. But you get it. It was a manually intensive process, and it was
Times tens of
soldiers.
thousands of soldiers. Yeah.
Yeah, you're fighting. So Mr. Garcia asked the question, why are we doing this? And
Yes.
and there was this assumption that was a requirement for us to. So bottom line, Mr. Garcia came out and said, let's find a new way. So he kind of directed the Army, specifically NetCom, to figure out a better solution. And what came out of that was this account validation system, AVS, where all you have to do is upload your information just one time. And sort of that gets into access management, access controls, to allowing the system owners to download that information, to allow the user to get access to those systems, vice hundreds of SAR forms being kind of distributed across the Army just so you can get access to this one system. So this was a really quick win, and I can tell you that countless hours were saved just by that simple process of us looking at manually intensive process, and again looking at the soldier experience and making it easier. And again, we came out with the Army validation system. But so now what happens is you just upload your information once. System owners can grab whatever digital certifications you have, and then allow you access to those systems that the users need.
We talk about table stakes, but when you think about this, you were talking, as you pointed out, tens of thousands of soldier hours, right? That could be used for many other things besides that. So hats off to all of you for what you're doing over there. Anish, let's jump down to you and talk about maybe a specific use case. I saw where you all are over at CISA now. A lot of different important agencies out there. Give us a one that you'd like to highlight.
Yeah, sure. I'll start with that one and maybe extend a little bit from there. But yeah, so one of the things that we started early on in our federal journey was to be part of the Einstein program and to help them with the protective DNS service. And so effectively,
Mhm.
any agency that is attempting to go out to the internet is taking advantage of Cloudflare and benefiting from the security posture that we have. Cloudflare actually protects 20% of the entire internet. And so we break and inspect a lot of traffic across, federal and commercial entities that allows us to really be kind of a tip of the spear on the threat intelligence that we see. And so I know Ben talked earlier about some of the implications on the Treasury side. And so being able to take even the data that we see from agencies that we partner with and share it with the folks that they want us to share it with is a large part of what we do. So for example, with Treasury, we work with OSIP and the Department of Energy to ensure that
Mhm.
threat intelligence that Treasury has access to, uniquely has access to because of the type of work that they do in that space on fraud. We are actually taking that and providing it to the entirety of the financial sector of the United States. Any financial institution in the United States, whether they're a Cloudflare customer or not, can actually have access to that information through our platform because we have so much breadth of reach. And so I think a lot of the things we try to do in that vein are in the interest of just kind of the public good, right? And so falling in line with kind of the secure by design principles that CISA's put out, ensuring that if we can raise the floor for everybody, everybody has a common standard, whether you have a SOC full of 1,000 people or you're a one-man CIO shop that also is the system administrator. You need to have some basic, policies and procedures in place. And so that's a large part of what we try to do, both for the government and for the stability of the United States.
We really do appreciate that secure by design. That's clutch, right? For all of us to really up our game. So great example that others can be using. So we appreciate that. Ben, how about at Treasury? I know there's a lot of stuff you can't talk about, but I'm sure there's a couple things you can talk about in regards to a great use case.
Yeah, absolutely. And to piggyback off of, Sonny's cloud discussion, I alluded to it earlier, but really for us, that's been a
He's going to
monumental.
be the CIO, by the way, that finally gets that cloud
Ex-
100% over the fence there. It's been going on for decades, so hats off to Sonny and his team for that one.
Exactly. It's no secret that, we're housed in an old building that by design presents some challenges from an IT service.
Mhm.
The ability to move some of our architecture and our infrastructure off-prem into the cloud environment has already proved, it's worth its weight in gold from a stability, security, and just an access perspective, and really buying back some of the capacity for a already small team. So, I mean, we've seen tremendous value there. But more importantly, on our mission data side, that was really the first workload that we moved into the cloud environment. And when I'm talking, Treasury's national security data, that extends beyond OIA. We're talking OFAC, FinCEN, and others. Historically, we've been able to kind of unlock those data sets from organization-specific applications and tools and kind of put them in a centralized Treasury national security data environment. We deployed our flagship application, Cache, if you're familiar with it, that is really a cloud native search and discovery tool, which empowers Treasury's national security employees to access the data they need, that they should and have access to at the point in time they need it, and really has improved our ability to do data analytics and really kind of strengthened our ability to do intelligence analysis. So we're super proud of that. And on the business, process side, we're really inside the red zone on our migration to O365. I
Nice.
think from a IC perspective, while one of the Agile 13s, I think we're one of the community leaders in that migration to O365. So we're really super excited about that. I'm hoping in the next, by Q2 of the next fiscal year, we should be FOC and fully operating in our O365 environment, which will unlock tremendous abilities for our employees that that we don't have today, from whether it's teams or just greater stability and access and scalability and movability of our employees around our various locations. So we're super excited about that, and really those are those big muscle movements where our attention is focused on right now.
A lot of work being done there. You're really cleaning up that environment and putting it into a top shelf modernized capabilities. So really do appreciate all the work that's going on over there. Adam, you made a good point about, Red Hat's been sort of transforming and modernizing folks into these various environments from sort of day one, right? That's what you all do. That was the birth of Red Hat, if you will. Let's talk about a specific use case you'd like to highlight for us.
Yeah. So, in that context, Luke, I was just checking. It's been over 10 years since Red Hat's OpenShift platform has been modernizing applications. So, if you can
Uh,
imagine 10 years ago, our teams were going out, meeting with CIOs and talking to them about crazy things like containerization and Kubernetes
right.
and the way
Open
all of that.
source,
I know,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. Back
And
in the
and
day, right?
and the way all of that was really gonna change applications and application
Mm.
modernization. So today, if you were to start building an application, you're obviously thinking about containerizing that workload, being able to run it on something like, OpenShift or Kubernetes platform so that you can run it in the cloud, so that you can run it in your data center, and most crucially, so you can run it at the edge if that's what you need to do. And, those platforms, along with our partners and cloud providers, have really brought unprecedented scalability, which I think Sonny alluded to in his earlier comments. And so, one great success that we've had, while not a federal customer, is operating at federal scale. And so, the one I'm going to talk about is the California Healthcare Eligibility and Enrollment System. So, if you think Affordable Care Act and the work that had to be done around healthcare.gov, this is healthcare.gov for California. And so, the modernization that they had to undertake was massive in modernizing their entire enrollment and eligibility determination platform for the state of California. So over 18 million consumers there in California use the platform. It's processing up to 91 million transactions a day. And they've got over 5,000 containers that they're running across their production and test dev environments. So all of this
5,000?
5,000 containers. Yeah, I mean,
Wow,
it is a massive
impressive.
implementation. That's why I say it is really at scale. And and honestly, Luke, that scale would not be available without partnerships with cloud providers like we have. So that's super exciting for us at Red Hat to see that move into that production environment, to see them filling that part of their mission for their customers. I do want to toot our horn from a Red Hat perspective. Everybody's dropped their FedRAMP accreditation. We've got a couple too. So we've got one in GovCloud with AWS on our Rosa platform. And we've also got an accreditation with a long-term partner of ours in Microsoft and the ARO platform. The good news about that is that if you want to move your workloads into the cloud, but get rid of some of that O&M around the platform, we can do that with those. So we're happy to help and modernize those workloads as well.
Yeah, I was highlighting and of course the panel members as well, the FedRAMP play, simply because it's so important, it's so clutch here, right? And we don't want to struggle with that. And we appreciate you all recognizing that and jumping right in day one. Let's go to high or moderate or whatever it takes and not be ready, but actually be implemented. These CIOs need that type of capability and deserve having that readily available. Their jobs are hard enough. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about IT modernization, specifically talking about priorities. Sonny, we are going to start with you and ask you what is the absolute top number one must-do priority for you in the job jar?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, Luke, as you know, administration sets the policy, policy drives the mission, and the mission stakeholders drive technology. And we are the CIOs that implement the technology, support the mission, which really implements the policies. What is the policy of the administration? National security. So everything border security, economic security, everything's national security here. So the new federal policies are driving the priorities, and everything that we're doing from customs, immigration, technology, trade, travel, everything is based on national security policies. There are quite a few executive orders that we have aligned to, and making sure that everything that we're doing in the executive branch and especially in DHS, CBP is make sure all the technology modernization and automation is focused on the agent and officer and the analyst having the best information anywhere, anytime at the speed of mission so that they can get the job done. The other stuff is, we got technology, we got data, we got trusted partnership and cybersecurity, all that. But that's all secondary. The main thing is national security. So it's really about the new federal policies and the administration focus and executive orders clearly on national security and border security and economic security.
Appreciate the laser focus on that and that all of you all are doing over there. And Nish, how about a Cloudflare? What's the demand signal there? What's the focus on right now in regards to priority for you all this year?
Yeah, I think for us, it's helping agencies hide the complexity from end users. We all say like technology should be simple, secure by design, but let's face it, everything in IT is complicated. It's just a matter of how well we can hide that from the end users, right? And so I think the technology that agencies are deploying for their citizens, constituents, end users, how do you ensure that you're delivering that better service for the customer without them knowing that there's more complexity behind it, right? And that's just kind of a general evolution of all technology. Everything that you see out there today certainly is much more complicated than it was 10, 20, 50 years ago. But, to the end user, a lot of things that if you've used like a VCR before, very complicated to use. Today, anybody can record anything and watch anything anytime they want, right? And so that's, I think, the main kind of structure of what we're trying to do with the agencies that we're helping.
Really do appreciate that. I mean, the operators deserve simplicity because their jobs are hard enough, right? So hats off to you all for that. Ben, how about at Treasury? What is the number one focus for you all over there these days?
Sure, thank you. When you peel back the onion, the reason we exist is to ensure that the mission side of the house can do their job. So I couch my number one priority under the operational readiness of Treasury's Foreign Intelligence Network, so the top secret fabric. And when you break that down, we're really talking about the redundancy and resilience of the network. That when the user sits down at their desk, it works, right? I want IT to move to the background of the user's day-to-day operation. A part of that's also cybersecurity. So, and we almost made it the whole show without mentioning zero trust. But zero trust will be and will continue to be a priority for us. We're in close partnership with the ICCIO team up at OD&I on driving those critical zero trust capabilities forward, because the threat is real for us from an operations perspective, both external and the internal insider threat, whether it's malicious or accidental threat. So really improving the operational readiness of TFIN to support the mission, so that at the point in time where a user or a mission customer needs to do their job, they know it's going to work. So if we can get to that point, I will sleep well at night.
Absolutely, and great for highlighting the zero trust. That's an excellent framework to everyone focus their attention on. So really appreciate you pointing that out. Adam, how about at Red Hat? Number one priority for you all this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about Red Hat's past in this on this call. Um, you know, Back in 2007, our head of products, Paul Cormier, he later went on to become our CEO. At our user summit, he said, "Any application, anywhere, anytime." And that was really our concept for being able to help our customers migrate their workloads. This year, our CEO said, "Any model, any accelerator, any cloud." And I think that's really Red Hat's focus today, is helping push the edge of what people think of as a cloud and being able to move those accelerators or move those models into those clouds and being able to run those LLM workloads regardless of what the platform hardware looks like underneath. So sometimes that's going to mean running smaller models if we have to move to the edge. Sometimes that's going to mean using new technologies to accelerate the models that we have today via software. So there's a big focus within Red Hat of enabling that type of capability for our mission customers. And so I want people to really take away the idea that where you run your accelerator doesn't just have to be in the web service that's made available today. We're really focused on bringing those LLMs to the edge and to where the mission needs them most. So that's our main priority right now.
We appreciate the ability to be fungible with that workload, right? I think everyone discovered the complexity of a multi-cloud environment very quickly. So hats off for you all for simplifying that. Will, how about at the Army? Number one priority for you?
Yeah, I think this is plain and simple. Is protect and defend the network, right? The Army, of course, has a lot of priorities, but the number one in sort of the IT world is protect and defend. Let operators operate on a secure network. And how do we get after that? We get after that through ICAM, right? Identity, credentialing, access, and management, allowing those users to kind of get those systems to kind of do the work they need. So the information that they are providing gets sort of fed up echelon so decisions can be made. Just plain and simple, it's got to be protect and defend the network.
Absolutely. And that's job one. Without it, nothing else matters, right? We've all discovered that. Arvin, top priority for you at Verizon.
Yeah, I'm kind of with a niche on this one. Like, I feel like we're such a customer service, customer experience centric organization across the board. Whether you think about us as a consumer, enterprise, or public sector, that's at the heart of it. So, my number one priority for our team is to reduce the cyber risk and the posture and the burden that the agencies take on to essentially keep things within those cyber postures, right? There's a significant amount of time, effort, and capability that must exist to do that well. And the way we're going to accomplish that is invest heavily in AI, right? We've made foundational steps. You've heard me talk about it. We even have partners like Cloudflare and Redshift that we use heavily in our network and how we orchestrate workloads and how we do things. I think coming in with the AI digital service management for zero touch provisioning, your continuous monitoring and authorization, your vulnerability remediation in real time, and other SLOs. I think that's how we're going to accomplish that. So that's what I'm hyper focused on. And it all centers around ensuring that with all the pressures of doing more with less, we make sure that we are agency mission focused on not forgetting that it has to be cyber secure, it has to work, right? You hear that multiple times, and it has to be highly resilient. That's my number one focus.
Absolutely, and very important. And we really do appreciate you partnering with these super capabilities around the ecosystem to secure these environments. All right, we're going to fast forward here and wrap it up. We always like to end with this last question. We'll go 2 years out, 2+. Anish, I'm going to start with you at Cloudflare. You all have a lot of stuff going on over there. I'm sure you got some stuff in the petri dish on the way to production at some point in time. Fast forward 2 to 3 years, what's it going to look like? What are you all going to be focusing your attention on? Describe that environment.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd say a couple of years ago, it'd be really easy to say you could put a 5-10 year vision out there. Now it seems like things are changing so fast that 2 to 5 years does seem like a decade plus. But so first, I'd say if I think about just the concept that we're talking about here today of IT modernization, right? I want to just kind of define how I think about that and how Cloudflare thinks about it. We really say like IT modernization isn't an event; it's more of a commitment, right? So kind of almost think of it like a lot of large organizations treat modernization kind of like a wedding, but it's actually a marriage, right? It's like you plan for that big event, you plan for that big day, but really the work happens in the real investment is in that time, energy, and resources that you do after that initial project goes live. And so when we think about where are we going to be in a couple of years, it's really, have we set the right foundation now? Are we doing the right things in the platforms that agencies are deciding upon? And of course, there's never just one, right? But the set of platforms that you're choosing, does that set you up for success for whatever change is going to happen a year, 2, 3, 5 years from now? And so I think like the vision that we have is to move from this kind of like, let's say, static IT to a composable government, where let's say if Treasury and the Army need to stand up a temporary kind of secure environment to share intelligence with coalition partners, today it's a very kind of monumental effort to stand up networks and firewalls and whatever in between that has to happen, right? But you can imagine a world where this is all just kind of done by API and natural language instruction fed into some sort of AI system, right? And so can a mission owner just define that, hey, I need these number of users to access this organization assets and this application for X number of hours, and just have a policy that's created and then deconstructed after that period of time, right? Whereas today, you put something into a firewall and we have customers that'll say, well, we can't remove this. We've had this for 20 years. We don't know what it does, but we can't remove it. So that whole idea of just simplifying that policy portion of what government is doing, I think is a really big part of what's going to happen. I also think things like Sunny and others that talked about like post-quantum cryptography today. 97% of the internet that is using post-quantum crypto, when you go to your browser and go to a website, is actually running through Cloudflare. And our objective is to ensure that whether you're using Cloudflare or another agency or another organization to handle that, that you can ensure that end to end we can do post-quantum crypto. And I think that's realistic to make a large step forward well before the deadlines that government's currently set.
I saw a lot of heads nodding when you were talking about the easy button on those configurations. So appreciate that. Adam, how about over at Red Hat? What's the play going to be in 2 years from now, and from your focus? Is it a pure edge play, or is it bigger than that?
Oh, it's gonna be everywhere. I think that, you know, the mission space is, continually evolving, and where we're able to bring technology to the mission is continually growing. So I think, yes, you're gonna see Red Hat obviously in data centers and clouds. You're gonna see us at the edge. You see us on boats, ships, all over the army, all over, every mission space. Um, but I think the thing that I'm really focused on is sort of, we all know that change is inevitable. We know that change is coming. We know that whether that change comes from policy or new administrations, that cycle is ever going. So I think that the more automation capability we can build into our platform, the more adaptable we can be to that change, the better off we're going to be in our mission's ability to respond to those changes, whether it's the threat dynamic has changed or whether the policy dynamic has changed. It is a constant. And so that's what I think about a lot. It's interesting to know and understand the place that AI is going to play in a lot of those efforts. I think obviously there's a lot of intense focus on LLMs, wherever they may be. Today, from an AI perspective, I think I'm very hopeful that that's going to change and grow so that we've got a much larger focus on what I'm calling multimodal AI implementation. So where we're combining sound and video, machine learning, image processing, um, to get much more focus sort of at the mission for AI instead of how can I write a better document, which has its uses and there's code and other things. But I think that when you focus on the mission space, it's so much more than just textual. And so that's really where I think the focus is going to have to change.
Appreciate that. We look forward to it. Arvin, how about at Verizon? Lot cooking over there. I would imagine 2 to 3 years from now, you'll have a fully implemented SD-WAN environment, maybe 6G's out there. Who knows, right?
Yeah, so I like to break it up into two horizons, if you will, right? I think a 5 year lot's going to change in our environment, right? Not just
Let's
Verizon, but I
pull
think
it
in the
down
tech.
to 2 years, because 5 years like a way too
Yeah,
far out
things. Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So it definitely in a 2 year lens, I think in the short term, it's going to be like a massive amount of how do you use AI and workflow to take some of the documentation burden and some of the authorization. So when you think about compliance, that's my focus in a 12 to 18 month lens. What we're seeing a lot of introduction is how do you do multimodal networks, right? Which is, you got your primary circuits and then you got FWA backups. And then, as we continue to deploy wireless infrastructure, how does that all play together and be centralized? So that's on the horizon on like an 18-month to 24. Where we see it going even further than that is something that I like to call as cognitive infrastructure. You need to have the platform in place to really take the insights of any agency, what they're trying to do, understand what it is, and be prescriptive and also be predictive, right? It's to paint higher resiliency, do it in a compliant way, but then also be intent based, right? How do we take those insights? How do we insulate them from cyber threats and scaling bandwidth needs? That's going to be a critical part of our over 2 to 3 year vision of how we're going to use our platforms and services to transform our agencies.
Really do appreciate that, and we certainly look forward to it. Will, we talked about table stakes. You all are on a tear over there. 2 years from now, 2+ years from now, what do you think you'll be focusing your attention on?
Yeah, I sort of listened to Anish, Adam, and Arvin, and I think we all agree that we're in a new digital landscape. So when you give me numbers like 2 to 5 years, I'm going to kind of rephrase that as near-term strategies. And sort of our near-term strategy is sort of kind of allowing commands to kind of use their soldiers sort of innovative thought process, right? So they can do the analytic data that they need to kind of build custom applications to kind of figure out those automated workflows that are necessary. Because what we do is we have all these soldiers that we're sort of kind of putting in place, and they're just as knowledgeable as the initiates, as the atoms, as the arvins. They're able to kind of do the work at a faster rate because, again, this generation kind of feeds on these low code, no codes environments, and sort of we're trying to enable that at speed and scale to kind of allow commands to deliver these products the way they can. Again, leveraging low code, no codes. So when we look at near terms, that's what we're hoping for, is kind of scaling down these big systems that are costing millions of dollars and still kind of, again, using technology that's out there. I'm going to kind of, again, keep on theme is minimize manually intensive process, kind of making it better for the soldier experience, kind of leveraging the technology, but still delivering the outputs that are necessary for senior leaders to make decisions.
Really do appreciate everything that you all are doing over there, and I'm sure the soldiers do as well. Ben, 2 years from now, of course, 2 years, we're going Mach 2 here, 100 feet off the deck, right? So it's like 10 years. My suspicion you'll have a lot of that environment cleaned up there, more in a modernized way. You'll be up the value chain. What do you expect to be focusing your attention on 2+ years from now?
Yeah, so over the next 2 years, I really want to focus on closing that gap from a user experience
Hmm.
perspective of what users experience when they're working on a skiff on air gap networks to what they experience in their personal computing capacity. So if we can execute on that cloud journey, and we've gotten there, we've enabled search and discovery tools, their ability to act as if they are sitting at their home device. The tools and software is the same from TFIN. There's more parity from TFIN to the unclassed fabric to at home, so that when a user sits down, they don't have to think about how they're operating. They know how to operate because it's how they operate every single day. I think that will help us in many ways, but mainly our ability to recruit and retain. Like having to work in a secure environment presents some challenges, but if we can at least enable you with the previous panelist mentions low code, no code. If we can empower you with the tools and capabilities to meet your mission demand at the speed at which mission demands it, then we've succeeded. So I think that would be where my focus is really tightening that user experience and providing more parity from what you experience in our environment to what you would experience outside of our environment.
Really do appreciate that. And speaking of user experience, Sonny, I was gonna sort of flip this one around on you a little bit. I'm thinking 2 years from now, if I'm a traveling passenger, right, coming into the country, what does that experience look like 2 years from now compared to what it is today? Or maybe a Border Patrol agent fresh out of the academy, right? They got their gun, they got their badge, maybe they got some new whiz bang device, who knows? So what can we expect 2+ years from now in your environment there?
Well, we're doing lots of revolutionary change that is helping not only CBP and all the traveling public, for example, and others. And we process 1.2 million travelers and passengers every day in the country. And we have processed over 700 million people successfully with a sort of a 99.5% biometric match rate. 2,200 imposters have been caught, less than 2-second adjudication in the back end and security with biometrics. So when you process that kind of volume, obviously there's a lot in all our ports of entry. I see the mobile global entry and all these things that we're doing is really going to take off even further. And biometric will be used even more in an ecosystem. And I think the ecosystem is the fact that the government public private partnership has really taken off, I believe is going to be a big deal. We're exchanging and helping out other agencies like TSA and others with their one-to-one, one-to-N sort of a biometric match and at scale and speed against data holdings. I see a lot of data holding and data sharing improving. That seems to be an administration priority, so that all that information is there, made available to vet and the people to make sure that they're the right people coming in, so that keep our country safe. We have the World Cup, FIFA 26, and then LA 28 coming, so that thing's going to go even a different level. The border is pretty much secure, and now it's down to like, as I say, in some areas, zero. And so now, focusing on fentanyl, counter UAS with cartels and all kinds of other stuff going on there. So I think the vision I see is that data will be a foundation, information sharing is a priority. So, in different enclaves, we operate in all three enclaves. So those things will be more, intelligence decision making made available to an officer or agent or analyst, even trade. Let's not forget trade, so that they've made available to them. We've done all the tariffs. We implement them. I've got 250 software agile teams that deliver software in every day or a couple of 2 weeks increments. So that'll be there. I think AI is an assist. The human is in charge. That is a very key approach to us. We're not enamored. We know about AI. I've been doing it for 13 years, but the key is the generative AI and very, very carefully using that. There's a whole cyber threat to that that is quite amazing what we are watching across many enclaves as well, that we are seeing and exchanging information. And I think that's the other thing, exchanging information between our trusted partners. We can learn from each other. So, all these areas, generative AI, edge, quantum, all these things will come to bear. But our adversary is not waiting. Our adversary is doing a lot of stuff that is very, very, very threatening to the United States. So we got to come together as a team. We got to come together as a group to really share and learn from each other. And all the partners and what they've said today, all my esteemed colleagues here, we can learn from each other. And I think that's really key. I was thrown off a little bit by Anish when he said the marriage and the wedding. I've just finished 40 years with my wife and 40 years in the business. But all I can tell you is as long as I'm not in the doghouse and as long as I say, yes, dear, I think I should be all right. So I think there's going to be a lot of that. I didn't know that I was going to bring in IT and that. But she was also in the U.S. Army before. So it's really good to see what Will's talking about and all the things that she's been doing in the past with multiple launch rocket systems and Patriot and JTA Army and all that kind of stuff. She's taking the fork in the road at the moment. But I'll just say that, you know what? She'd be really proud. I'll tell her today that, everyone's going forward. And to me, that's what life is all about. I've done this for 40 some odd years and still rocking and rolling. But I'll just say that to me, just watching all my esteemed colleagues and share this information, that's why I think we're a great country. And I'm very encouraged with what's coming next. So I really believe that the future will be that United States has to really focus on cyber, but use data, AI in a smart way and leverage innovation. We are a great country because of innovation. So I think we'll continue that. Thank you.
Some words of wisdom from one of our most seasoned and senior CIO. So I appreciate all of you taking the time from your busy schedules to join us for this program. I'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.